One Piece. A wild man can also become a swordsman. Chapter 31. After entering a huge building, Carl went directly to the front desk to ask if there was a channel for selling information. As for this kind of information selling, there are many people doing it, and no one is disgusted. On the contrary, many people support it, because there are complete information channels. After getting the answer, go directly to the designated channel. When he came to a room, he knocked 3 times and then opened the door. There was a masked person sitting inside, and it was unclear whether it was a man or a woman. Carl guessed that this should be a means of protecting himself. The employer who bought the information would not have to worry about leaking himself. At that time, if the person who sold the information was targeted, it would be a big trouble. After all, in a world where thieves are proud of being thieves, it is impossible to expect them to abide by the rules. Help me find someone. Name, age, characteristics. His name is Chloe. He should be about 19 years old this year. He wears glasses, has a slicked back hair, often likes to wear a suit, and his weapon is a set of 10-edged cat claws. How long will it take to find someone? It depends. The fastest is in the East China Sea, followed by the 4 seas. Oh, the whole person is most likely in the East China Sea. Investigate as quickly as you can. Money is not a problem. Good sir. Please wait a moment. If it is in Donghai, we will find out for you within 2 hours. The masked man retreated. Then a group of beautiful maids came up with fruit plates and wine. In fact, Carl didn't know whether Chloe was in Donghai or not. He could only try his luck. Besides, this guy might not even know if he was from Donghai. 2 hours later, the masked man came out from the inner room and fell asleep in the chair. Sir, sorry for the long wait. We just sorted out the information and found 5 people who fit the description, but none of them used the 10 blades cat claws as weapons as you said. Then the masked man pushed 5 photos in front of Carl. In the 5 photos, there were people with the same name, Chloe, all wearing suits, glasses and slicked back hair, but there was one person that Carl thought was the Chloe he was looking for. This person was holding 2 knives in both hands, and his cold face looked inhuman, but he was wearing round-framed glasses, and his originally cold and violent expression instantly became gentle. This is the guy. Name your price. Carl took out the confirmed photo from the photo and handed it to the masked man. Sir, the total is 100,000 Baileys. Carl took out a sack tied to his waist and handed it to the masked man. Now, I need all the news about him and where he is now, and quickly. Okay, sir, please wait a moment, we will be there in 5 minutes. After saying that, he took the money bag and went to count it. The information must have been collected, and it was just counting the money. Carl didn't care. If it was for others, he might not wait so long, but if it was for Chloe, it was worth it. I just don't know if this person with a super high IQ will get on his boat. Humph, if you dare not go, I will help you to go even if I have to tie you up. By the way, it seems that the celestial dragons were robbed in Marihoa at about the same time. After all, if we can form a basic team as soon as possible, I will be involved in Marihoa's affairs. Carl was complaining in his heart, and at this time the masked man came back. Sir, here is the whereabouts of the person you purchased from earlier, along with his personal details. It's true, the news is quite comprehensive. Name, Crow. Gender, male. Date of birth, April 1487. Age, 19. Birthplace, Moonlight Islands. Then behind are the coordinates of the small islands in the archipelago. Crow has not yet formed the Black Cat Pirates. This kid is killing pigs in the slaughterhouse in the town. Carl walked out of the door, came to the Black King, and set sail again. In addition to looking for information, the reason for docking here is that the 3 days of fighting of varying degrees have exhausted these crew members. There are not many crew members now, so there is only Carl as the high-end combat force. If Carl is dragged down, it will be troublesome. In addition to Enel, there is only Kawamatsu on the ship who can barely control the situation. So Carl is now very anxious to gather enough partners. First trick Crow onto the ship, and then slowly recruit subordinate crew members. Carl wants to recruit these cadres first and then start to organize and then the crew subordinates, so that the middle and lower combat forces will also be there. Instead of only top combat forces, but no middle and lower combat forces. At that time, others who use human wave tactics will be dragged to death by others. Have you rested? Alright. Okay, let's go to Yugon Islands now. The Black King slowly left the port. A day later, the Black King was intercepted by a warship flying a doghead flag. Hey, it's Old Man Cap. I haven't seen you for many years. How are you taking care of my sworn brother? Carl, it seems that you have chosen the path of a pirate. It is true that people like you cannot survive without becoming a pirate. Fist bone meteorite. Without waiting for Carl to answer, Garp suddenly took out a bomb and threw it at Carl's Black King. Carl's temples were bulging with blue veins. Why is this old guy always so rogue? He threw a bomb at him without waiting for him to finish his words. The 7-star sword covered with armament colors slashed down, and the bomb was split into 2 parts and fell into the sea. Old man, you have no moral principles. Let me show you how I can deal with you. Then he swung out a sword. The sword energy flew towards Garp's dog-headed ship. Garp blocked it with a punch. The sword energy landed on Garp's fist and then dispersed in all directions. The ship was immediately torn apart by the sword energy, and a large hole was dug out of the bottom of the ship. This was not over yet. The sword energy seemed to be endless and began to attack indiscriminately. The people on the entire warship could not cope with the sword energy and were cut into 2 pieces. A thief is a thief. I just wanted to show you some mercy, but now you've killed my crew. You can't leave now, Kuzan, block their way. Yes, Mr. Garp. The flowers fell, and a man jumped down from the deck of Garp's doghead ship. He fell towards the sea, and when he was about to fall into the water, a thick layer of ice formed on the surface of the water. In an instant, the seawater on the entire sea surface was frozen. Oops, why did Garp bring this guy here? The man who came was the future Admiral Aokiji, who was one of the people that Carl didn't want to face for the time being. It wasn't that he was so powerful, but that Carl's crew was incomplete, and the only person who could fight him was Enelu besides Carl. But his signature ability was to freeze the sea surface during the sea battle, so that the enemy couldn't escape. Now the most troublesome thing came. If Carl wanted to continue fighting, he had to withstand Garp's attack alone, and it was unknown how many times Garp's iron fists he could withstand with Garp's strongest armed color with his current strength. There are 2 options now. The first is to beat Aokiji to pieces. The second is to abandon the Black King. The Black King is Carl's hard work. He has no idea how much money and time he has invested in it. It is impossible for him to abandon the ship now. Fight. Even if you can't win, you have to fight. As long as you get rid of Aokiji first, it will be easy. Enelu, stare at the guy standing on the ice on the sea. If you find a flaw, use your strongest attack. I'll fight him. Since you don't want us to leave, then I can only keep you here forever. After saying this, Carl transformed into a dragon man. His height suddenly soared to 9 meters, and the 7-star sword in his hand also became 6 meters long. He spread his dragon wings and flew towards Aokiji, swinging out more than a dozen sword chi, each of which was burning with flames. Aokiji raised his hand, and an ice blade suddenly appeared in his hand. He slashed at the flying sword chi. Carl's sword chi collided with the ice blade and made a harsh sound. At this time, Carl had already approached Aokiji. He would not miss such an opportunity and slashed with a sword. Aokiji had already dodged it as expected. At this time, Carl's thick dragon tail behind his tailbone lashed towards Aokiji, accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air. Pa! Aokiji was pulled out more than 10 meters away, rolling on the ice. The shaving had not stopped and was once again enveloped by a huge black shadow. The holy sword was raised above the country's head, and Carl activated the 3-color domineering power and delivered the strongest attack. Wang Ji. A huge sword energy rushed towards him, overturning the frozen sea surface and smashing a big hole where Aokiji fell. Aokiji looked at the terrifying sword energy rushing towards him with despair on his face. Didn't he say that he just became a pirate? How could he be so strong? Aokiji felt bitter. Originally, this time Carp arrested Carl on purpose, just to let him test the strength of his peers. Now Carl directly used the strongest sword energy to make him feel the breath of death. Iron Fist. At the critical moment, a black fist blocked Aokiji's way. Enelu is now. Enel. 200 million volts Thunder God. Carl. Thunder and Fire. At the moment when Garp went to help Aokiji block the damage, Enel activated the power of the devil fruit. Carl used shave continuously and secretly ignited Crown of Fire, and flew to Enel at a very fast speed. In addition to the power of his devil fruit, thunder and fire, he opened his mouth and exhaled in the direction of the two. The scene changed, and a thunder dragon was entangled with a purple gold dragon and rushed towards Garp and Aokiji. Seeing this, Garp opened his three-color domineering aura and stood in a horse stance. The three-color domineering aura was wrapped around his fist and made a hissing sound of electricity. He punched the attack launched by Carl and Enel. Before the two energies collided, there was a sphere separating the two attacks. The sphere exuded a black and red color, and the sky, which was originally clear, began to be covered with dark clouds. But at this moment, a huge hole appeared in the sky, and a white lightning fell from the hole and struck Aokiji, and thick smoke instantly came out. Haha, good job, Enel. Carl said as he blew a fire breath directly towards the frozen sea surface under the ship. The originally frozen sea surface seemed to be boiling and the waves were rolling. In less than 10 seconds, the ice layer melted away instantly. Hurry up and leave, the four of you go pull the sail. After the four people from Sky Island pulled up the sail, Carl flew into the air and blew a gust of wind towards the sail. The Black King, which was originally on a slow course, suddenly moved forward rapidly as if it had eaten something. This was not the end. After Carl gave the sail enough gusts of wind, it had inertia and flew directly to the bow of the ship. Pull down the sail. The four men took up the sail that had just been raised. Carl transformed into a dragon, grabbed the bow with his hind claws, and his dragon wings trembled vigorously. The Black King, which had the inertia to move forward, was pulled forward by Carl. Garp on the other side stared at Carl's operation in amazement. He knew that this kid was a special race, but he didn't know that this kid had such a perverted devil fruit. It looked like a dragon-like devil fruit. And for the time being, his ability is similar to Kaido, who took the mythical beast in the Valley of the Gods decades ago. I just don't know if he has awakened yet. The ability we have seen so far is already on par with Kaido's devil fruit. This kid has only begun to expose it now, so he must have concealed it before. It makes sense. Given the special nature of that race, not all devil fruits can be eaten casually. Now that Carl's devil fruit is out, I'm afraid the world government will go crazy for it. Even if they don't know Carl's identity, no one can resist this fruit. Can't resist the temptation. Since hundreds of years ago, the celestial dragons have been collecting and hunting rare races in the world in order to study the secret of immortality. I don't know how many dragons have been killed. I don't know how many years it has been since I saw a dragon, let alone a skeleton. Now a dragon has appeared. Although it was transformed after swallowing a devil fruit, it is also worth studying. Just like Kaido decades ago, Kaido has the blood of the demon clan, and coupled with the characteristics of the blue dragon fruit, he once became the strongest creature on land, sea and air. The strongest creature here can crush others in all kinds of environments, and Kaido has amazing defense. The Navy has tried to station in the New World in the past few years. But Wolf Land Rover is the island in the Wano country ruled by Kaido. Kaido blocked many Navy alone, and the Navy sent out many senior generals in succession but could not defeat him, let alone kill him. Thick skin and flesh, Kaido just stood there and beat them for 3 days and 3 nights without breaking the defense. At the critical moment, Big the Mom pirates and the Whitebeard pirates came to support, and the Navy had to retreat. It's funny to say that a group of pirates actually formed an alliance in the New World to guard against their navy. Now the Navy's base can only continue to shift to the first half of the Grand Line in the Four Seas. Carl is only 16 years old and has shown such strong abilities. If he doesn't grow quickly, the world government will discover his identity as a Lunaria tribe member and it will be troublesome to mobilize the Knights of God. Carl has heard about the strength of the Knights of God from Jin, Kaido, and Roger. It can only be said to be quite terrifying, and Shanks was most likely the son of the leader of the Knights of God. Shanks can easily become a Four Emperor, but he can't. He is not Roger, and he can't have such a strong personal charm to recruit a group of people to work for him. Carl can only survive in this chaos. This is why after seeing Garp, Carl decided not to hide his fruit ability anymore, because if he doesn't use it, he may be caught by Garp and put in the underwater prison to eat peanuts. Carl is not a pervert who likes to play the pig and eat the tiger. And this kind of acting will be taken in for a long time. He was originally a tiger and then became a pig. If he was not weak, he would have rushed to marry Geoise and told Im to get off the throne. But this is just Carl's why. There is still a long way to go to defeat Im. This is not just talk. When Roger was alive, he was discovered by Im because he first came into contact with the historical text. Later, he was hunted down by the Navy of the World and voluntarily arrested. There is the shadow of Im. Once, Roger told Carl not to expose himself easily when his strength was not enough to compete with most of the strong. He could help Carl block most of the enemies while Roger was still alive. But after Roger died, those who knew Carl's identity would not let Carl go so easily. This is a fatal question. If Carl collapsed, he would really have to start over again. Carl's strength increased greatly when he fought with Mahak a few days ago, and in the next 3 days, he fought various battles with the pirate navy on the sea. His strength was sublimated. This time, Carl had the confidence to fight with Garp. Carl didn't believe that Garp would let him go, so this time he caught Garp off guard. Obviously, the effect was very good. Carl ran away before Garp could react. In fact, Carl had another crazy idea. That is, if Carl couldn't escape Garp's clutches like this, he would not suggest taking his grandson Luffy away in exchange for hostages. He didn't care about saving the world. If he saved the world, who would save him? Carl only understood one thing: to kill all those who were not good for him. The current situation is still good, and he may have to hide his whereabouts in the next few days. After all, his main thing is to find the crew, and then plan how to follow Rayleigh to climb up the Red Earth continent to Marihoa to rescue the slaves. Rescuing slaves is not Carl's real purpose. Carl's real purpose is those slaves. You must know that those who were captured as slaves and still survived must be strong, so it is best to recruit them as crew members. After that, it is to sail around the world and let everyone hone their own strength before starting to plan to enter the new world. Shira, the 4 of you put down the pirate flag. We should keep a low profile for the next few days. We can raise the pirate flag when we find the person I'm looking for. Yes, Captain. Each of these people has made rapid progress since leaving the Sky Island. Shira is the oldest of the 4 and has made the fastest progress. He is particularly powerful when he sprints in close combat with a cylindrical spear. The only thing he lacks is a mount. It will be perfect if we find one for him. As for the second oldest, Geddes, it is a bit difficult for Carl. This person is like a born idiot. He will forget everything in an instant, even how to breathe. The third oldest is Ohm, a swordsman. Because he is a swordsman, he is often instructed by Carl or practices with Kawamatsu. The fourth oldest is a girl who is as fat as a ball and is about the same age as Hiyori. For several years before, Hiyori had been living with Carl and Kawamatsu, and few people chatted with her. Now that there is a little sister in the team, she is very happy. Since then, she has not been pestering Carl as before. 3 days later, the Black King docked at a port, and people were bustling on the Bluestone Road. Because the pirate flag had been lowered to speed up the journey, the Black King's docking at the port did not cause any commotion, but there were more people watching. After all, the Black King was really big, and its construction was quite majestic, and it was completely unlike those merchant ships used for transportation. Do any of you want to go down? Go down quickly, and it's better to have someone accompany you, and then come back as soon as possible. I can't take too long. If you want to eat and have fun, you have to wait until our crowned pirates are safe. The few people who were still eager to move suddenly wilted. Carl didn't care about them and took Enelu off the boat by himself. Enelu, let's go. The main reason I brought Enel with me this time is because of his status. It's good for a captain to recruit people, but he has to be a little arrogant, otherwise the crew will be disrespectful in the future, just like the Straw Hat Pirates more than 10 years later, when a captain was almost attacked by the crew. Enel followed Carl with an apple in his hand. The two walked through the streets and alleys and came to a huge open space built with a large shed, where vendors shouted one after another. Carl was looking for it as he walked. The information only said where he set up the stall, but did not say the specific location. So Carl could only look for them one by one, and the two of them started looking as soon as their observation color was turned on. After a while, their eyes were locked in a direction in front of the right. The man wore a mask, and the two butcher knives in his hands chopped the meat on the chopping board one by one. The uncle and aunt next to him pointed and talked. The man was not in a hurry. Carl was about to speak when he saw it. Who knew that Enel walked straight forward to the butcher who was cutting meat, as if he knew what Carl was thinking. He walked closer, untied the money wrapped in a small bag around his waist, and threw it to the man. I want all your stuff. I have something to discuss with you. Come out with me. Crow paused with the knife in his hand and looked at the man in front of him. He was wearing nothing on his upper body, bell-bottom pants on his lower body, a turban on his head, and a height of more than 2 meters and 5 meters. He carried a golden copper stick on his shoulder. He exuded a dangerous aura. Although he had been working as a butcher here, he had also killed people before. How could he not see that Enel was not simple? Hey, did you hear me? If Carl hadn't warned him not to make too much noise, Enelu would have knocked him out with a bolt of lightning and tied him up on the boat. He was impatient and pointed the copper stick at Chloe. Chloe frowned and calculated hundreds of ways to escape in his mind, but they all ended in death. Hey, kid, did you hear me? At this time, Enel's impatient voice sounded again. Chloe's hair stood on end this time. Carl couldn't stand it anymore. Even if he pulled him up, there would definitely be conflicts later. He didn't want conflicts to arise in a group. It would be like the Rocks pirates decades ago. Okay, we just want to talk to you about something. We won't harm you. Chloe looked at the young man with white hair, brown skin and red pupils coming from behind. Enel in front of him gave up his position. Chloe knew he couldn't resist, so he simply packed up his stall and followed him. Wait for me, I'll pack my things. Then he walked to a door curtain covered with several pieces of cloth. Suddenly, a handsome young man in a suit, with slicked back hair and glasses came out. It's true, this guy looks really good when he's dressed up. The butcher just now is totally different from his current image. Chloe followed the two out of the market and stopped only when they reached a place with few people. Are you interested in being a pirate? As soon as he stopped, Enelu started posting. Why does it feel a little off? Shouldn't we ask him if he's interested in turning the world upside down, just like Roger did when he invited Rayleigh? Carl thought to himself. Chloe on the other side was already shocked. It seems that you two asked me to come out and become a pirate. If you join us on board, our captain can teach you swordsmanship, and he is also a bit proficient in physical skills. Enel looked in the direction of Carl. Also, our captain is very powerful, okay. The first bounty on our captain was more than 200 million berries. A few days ago, he fought with the leader of the 7 warlords of the sea, which was just formed by the world government, and won. Now the bounty has reached more than 400 million berries. Wait a minute. At this time, Chloe interrupted Enel's bounty theory and took out a newspaper from the bag. This newspaper was published by Carl a few days ago after he separated from Mahawk. Carl once became the brightest new star. I do. I wanted to go to sea, but I was not confident in my own strength, so I stayed here. Crow had planned to go to sea, but who knew that Carl, the evildoer, would make trouble in the East China Sea, and things would get serious. After Carp came back, he began to vigorously clean up the East China Sea. It seemed that he would not give up until he found Carl. Seeing so many naval patrols, Crow had to suppress his inner thoughts. You know, he is famous for being steady, otherwise he would not have lurked for 3 years just to embezzle a little girl's property. No, I agree now. Do you really not need to think about it again? No need. Originally, the reason why I didn't want to go out to sea so early was because I didn't have enough strength. Now, just from the momentum you exude, I know you are definitely not weak. In addition, the newspapers have reported it. Otherwise, why don't you compete with Enelu? Since you ask for it, I have no objection. After saying that, he made an invitation gesture to Enel. Enel would not tolerate him. He stretched out his index finger and a lightning bolt condensed in it. Beep! An arc of electricity quickly flew towards Chloe. Chloe's pupils condensed, and he subconsciously raised the 2 butcher knives in his hands to block. After a clang, there was a hissing sound of leakage. Chloe's face was blackened by the electric shock, and he twitched with the remaining lightning in his body. Well, anyone who knew that Enel had this kind of devil fruit would be more careful. Chloe obviously didn't know that Enel had such a hand. He thought it was a collision between moves, but who knew that he was playing magic with you directly? Carl slapped Chloe on the shoulder, and the remaining current was directly dissipated, and Chloe returned to normal. He woke up all of a sudden, and felt a chill on his back. He had just seen that the person who attacked him in front of him just hit him casually, but he didn't expect the power to be so great. Although he was also careless, he lost. Although my news has been reported, I will still introduce myself. My name is Master Carl, and I am the captain of the Crown Pirates. This is my crew member, Enelu. We are both devil fruit users. He has the super rare natural thunder devil fruit ability. Just by developing the fruit ability, he can challenge the Admiral of the Navy, so you don't have to doubt yourself. In addition, there are not many strong people in a place like the East China Sea that is completely controlled, so your strength has not improved much. As long as you get on my ship, your strength will definitely be comparable to those top strong people. When Carl observed Chloe just now, he found that he was very suitable for practicing physical skills and swordsmanship. If he is afraid of encountering bottlenecks in the future, he can only feed him the devil fruit. After all, Chloe's talent is very good, but it is difficult to achieve great success without a strong bloodline support. Of course, it is not impossible to grow into a top combat force. These depend on his willpower. Okay, let's go, the purpose of this time has been accomplished. Is there anything else you want to do? Our ship is at the port. If you are not there, get on board now. No, my parents died a long time ago. Then follow us on board. Then he led the way to the port where the ship was docked. Carl felt a little depressed. Could it be that the only way to become a strong man is to be without a father or a mother or to have strong parents? Thinking about the son of prophecy and red-haired Shanks in the future, they are really happy. They are all big winners in life, and only Carl and his group are displaced. After the three of them got on the boat, Carl asked Kawamatsu and Sky Island to drive the boat. He and Enelu led Chloe to the training room. Before, when Carl and Enelu practiced, they were on the deck, mainly because the two of them fought too wildly. Both of them were blindfolded and fighting each other. You hit me and I hit you. Although it looks cruel, the progress is indeed great. Enelu has changed from a small minion to a big minion now. If the fruit ability is suppressed by others, he will instantly become a muggle. I will teach you physical skills first, and then start practicing swordsmanship. You should have some basic skills in swordsmanship, so there is no need to rush to practice. Learn physical skills first, then practice swordsmanship to get twice the result with half the effort. Then Carl directly taught him to learn to use Carl's own imitation of the Navy's 6 styles, shave, moonstep, storm kick, and his own comprehension of pseudo-life return. After the battle with Garp a few days ago, Carl's physical skills became more and more handy. Maybe this is the driving force for progress. When he met Garp at that time, Carl knew that he might be defeated. Fortunately he still had hidden strength, otherwise he would really be finished. But now everyone knows Carl's strength. Even if Carl has more tricks now, it's useless. Only if he can make further progress in strength can he no longer be afraid of others. In this way, at least there is a chance to escape if he can't win. If there is no chance to escape, it would be ridiculous. Well, that's all the physical skills I can teach you. If you want to practice it, it still depends on your body's endurance. You need to keep practicing. Next I want to talk about hockey. Kiro doesn't know anything about hockey. The only people who know hockey in the East China Sea are definitely not pirates or civilians. Only those who have come into contact with hockey know what hockey is. In addition to being born with domineering, it can also be acquired through training. If a person cannot even master domineering, how can he become a strong person? There are 3 types of domineering: domineering color, armed color, and observation color. The simplest of these is the seeing and hearing color. Of course, some people can't master it in their entire life. The main purpose of observation hockey is to sense and prevent enemy attacks or make predictions during battles. There are also some strong people who have observation hockey superhumans, who can resist others' hockey just by releasing observation hockey. The next 2 are armament hockey and conqueror hockey. Armament haki requires practice. Unlike the first two, which can be awakened by innate awakening, armament haki needs to be practiced to a certain level. Most of them rely on practicing physical skills to awaken the armed color domineering in their bodies. The last one is the conqueror's haki. It is said that people who possess this haki have the qualifications of a king, but I think it is pure bullshit, because there are too many people who possess conqueror's haki. Even if it is 1 in 10,000, there are thousands of people in this world who have the qualifications of a king. In my understanding, the condition for possessing dominant haki is a strong bloodline. If you don't have a strong bloodline, let alone dominant haki, you may not be able to awaken it even if you practice until death. The second condition is that you either inherit the will or have an extraordinary physique. So in my understanding, most people with domineering haki and strong strength rely on their own inherited bloodline, or the simplest way is to eat a devil fruit. This is the closest way to becoming a strong person. I will tell you this much for now. You may not fully understand it if I tell you more. It is better for you to read this practice manual I wrote. When you encounter troubles, come and ask me. Carl handed the basic practice manual directly to Chloe. Carl himself also needs to practice. It is impossible for him to guide the people on this ship to practice all the time. Moreover, even if they practice together, it is not enough to reach Carl's usual practice progress. So Carl's main task now is to practice himself, and then guide Enelu to practice. After that, let Enelu pass on the experience and understanding of practice. In this way, Carl will not have to do everything by himself. Enelu, you will be responsible for his training from now on. I hope that you too can cultivate armament haki in the shortest possible time. Enelu's armament haki has shown some signs now, but that's all. So now Carl gives him extra training every day. It's so cool to beat up Enelu after he finishes his training every day. Naturally, after Enelu initially mastered Carl's own pseudo-life return, his ability to withstand beatings increased sharply. Every day after being beaten by Carl, white smoke would come out of his head when he ate, and his body injuries would recover quickly. This pseudo-life return trick is not mastered by anyone in the crew except Enelu. I will go to practice first. You two can slowly get to know each other. Whether you want to become the first officer in the future depends on your hard work. After saying that, Carl came to the deck and found Hiyori and told her to go to a remote island and then went to practice on his own. 2 months later. 13,698. 13,699. 13,700. Carl was swinging an iron rod in an open space. Carl's method of practicing swordsmanship was different from others. Some people practiced swordsmanship by welding a ton of dumbbells to an iron rod. Carl looked like he was swinging the sword, but it was better to say that he was pulling the sword. He welded a section of the iron rod to a huge spring steel, and each time he swung the sword, it was 100 times more difficult than others. Carl had practiced with a barbell before, but the effect was not very good. It was better to go fight with others every day. Ever since he met Mahawk, Carl began to think about how to improve the practice method, even if it was just a little better than before. Then he figured out this set of spring steel practice method. It's good, but the spring steel is a bit useless. There is also a way to practice by pulling a rope, which has a similar effect to the spring steel practice. 19,998. 19,999. 19. Ding. Before the 20,000 meter mark, the spring steel could not bear the weight and broke with a miserable wail. It seems that I still have to fight. Otherwise, with my current strength, I won't make much progress even if I practice. Since the last fight with Mahawk, Carl's swordsmanship has been promoted to the top level of swordsmanship. When Carl fought with Mahawk last time, he had been at the advanced level of swordsmanship for a long time. Since the fight with him, they have absorbed each other's moves. Carl's swordsmanship has reached the top level of swordsmanship. It can be said that they are each other's whetstone. Throwing away the waste spring steel in his hand, he went to the bathroom to wash up. Hiyori, how long have we been here? After arriving here, Carl forgot the time. After all, he had been training so hard every day that he had already forgotten himself. Perhaps this was the shadow that had been cast on Carl since the battle with Garp. Not only did he need to become stronger, but so did the crew. This could not be done by him alone. This was also to lay the foundation for the new world in the future. He could not have been wandering in the four seas in the first half of the Grand Line. He would have to go to the new world sooner or later, and he had to go. Carl-sama, 2 months have passed. Hiyori likes to call Carl, sir, in private. This kind of address is usually used by wives to address their husbands in private in Wano country. But Carl feels a little guilty, mainly because how old is this little girl? She is only 10 years old, a little lowly. And she is at the age that loves to play the most. Besides, Carl doesn't have any weird orientation. He likes those gentle older sisters. Forget it, just keep it. Okay, I've practiced long enough this time, let's go to a place called Goa Kingdom on Dong Island, where there is a windmill village. Then he returned to the room and took out a wooden box containing the flame fruit he got a few years ago. Carl actually wanted to keep this devil fruit for himself before. Although the performance of this devil fruit is not very good, it is still a natural devil fruit no matter how bad it is. It is better than some garbage devil fruits. After entering the East China Sea, Carl has been thinking about the ownership of this fruit. Now that he is about to leave, Carl thinks of this devil fruit again. Give it away or not? This question has been echoing in his mind. In the end, Carl thinks that he should give this fruit to himself or to the person who should get it. And there is also another purpose, which is to see if Shanks is in the windmill village. Speaking of which, Carl and Shanks haven't seen each other for a long time, as well as Buggy. When Carl first boarded Roger's ship, he did have the idea of stealing his skills, but after getting along with each other, he regarded everyone on the ship as his own. Otherwise, how could Carl almost die on Baydrilla Island to help Roger take care of his widow? During the 1 year on Baydrilla Island, Carl lived in a nightmare every day. Every day, there would be soldiers coming to check nearby, and sometimes there would be a ray of observation hockey coming over to peek. After Garp came and confirmed that there was no risk for Rouge to give birth even if she insisted on giving birth for a few more months, Carl left. Oh, forget it, I really owe you one. Carl held up the flame fruit in one hand and picked up the Supreme Sword 12 works ace left to him by Roger in the other. Inside was Roger's divine evasion. This was Roger's strongest full-strength attack during his lifetime. That's why Carl was willing to take a risk for his widow. Not to mention the value of this sword, this strongest attack is enough to be a strong guarantee for Carl before he has fully grown up to face powerful enemies. This strongest attack would be feared even by Edward Newgate, the world's strongest man with white beard. That's why Carl reminded him after he came over and gave him this gift. If Roger hadn't come before, Carl might have followed the plot and ignored this thing. After all, even if he wants to repay a favor, he should do it to the best of his ability. Besides, he knows the plot and knows that his son is a short-lived ghost. Can't he help him when he is in trouble? After Roger gave him the knife, Carl changed his mind and went all out. Obviously, because of the long-term high pressure for a year, Carl ran to Wano country after returning, and then his training progress was very fast. Otherwise, he would not have ended up like this at the age of 16 with Mihawk, the future world's #1 swordsman. Although the elements are a bit complicated, it is undeniable that Carl won. Besides, Carl, with his own Lunaria Black Wing, has indeed surpassed Mihawk in swordsmanship. There is no doubt about this. 2 days later, the Black King stopped at a port that looked a bit prosperous. In fact, it wasn't that prosperous, but Carl went from the New World to the first half of the Grand Line, then to the South China Sea, and then to the East China Sea. Windmill Village was indeed much better than other places. There were not many ships docked at the port, but there was a ship that was larger than the surrounding fishing boats, and there was also a skull flag with a scratched eye on it. Get off the boat, guys. Carl called the crew to get off the boat. The villagers in the fishing village rushed to a bar called Foxia Village after seeing Carl's boat. Oh no, Makino, hurry up and take Luffy and run. Another group of pirates is coming, and the ship is parked at the port. Village chief, what's going on? Why are there so many pirates these days? And village chief Shanks is not like those pirates who burn, kill and loot. He is a good man. Oh, anyway, Makino, don't explain anymore. Just take Xiaolu and leave quickly. I'll go and inform the rest of the villagers. The village chief Upslap obviously didn't believe what Makino said. As he spoke, he glanced at the pirates around him who had noticed something strange in the bar. At this time, a 3 or 4-year-old child was sitting next to a red-haired young man. The red-haired man seemed to be telling a story to the child opposite. The child listened with stars in his eyes and his mouth opened so wide that a pineapple could be stuffed in. Just when the village chief upslap blinked, the red-haired young man disappeared with a whoosh. Village chief, you just said that a group of pirates have arrived in your village. In return for Miss Makino's invitation to drink, we are willing to settle this matter as a reward. At this time, the voice of the red-haired young man who had just disappeared came from behind the village chief upslap. Great, Shanks, with your help this time, we don't have to worry about the invading pirates. Before upslap could agree, Makino quickly answered. Really, is it really possible? It was then that the village chief upslap reacted. Yes, we have the most trustworthy pirates. Then I'll trouble this pirate gentleman. After saying that, upslap stepped aside, while Makino walked to the side holding the child just now. Ha 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 ha, Shanks, I didn't expect you to still be so greedy after all these years. Just then the door of the bar was pushed open, and Carl walked in with Eneluklo and others. It's Carl. I was wondering who came here. Come on Shanks, with your strength, you must have felt it the moment I arrived at the port. Shanks, who is he? At this time, the little fool who was originally held in Makino's arms struggled out, ran to Shanks, pulled his sleeve and asked. Oh haha, this is my friend. This interesting kid is called Luffy. Moreover, this guy is a complete monster. He looks very tall, but he is only 16 or 17 years old. Shanks pulled Luffy over and whispered to him about Carl's past deeds. I said, Shanks, what happened to your face? You remember that you didn't have this scar when we last met, right? I got caught by mistake. Hey, our fearless Shanks, who is so disrespectful to you and slapped your face. Carl started to tease Shanks at this time. Alas, I can never win over you. It was us who were watching that fat guy who never slept last time. Who knew he was so strong in physical skills? He caught me in the eye by a sneak attack when I was in the New World a few years ago. You can't do that, Shanks. It's been so short since we separated and this has happened. If Buggy knew about this, he would definitely laugh his head off. By the way, how come there has been less and less news about Buggy since he got off the ship? I don't know. I came to the East Sea this time because I heard that someone had seen him there before. I just happened to be out of money recently, so I thought of trying my luck in the East Sea. Carl gave him a thumbs up when he heard this. He is really talented. You know, the red hair pirates are notoriously poor. This guy's source of income is from robbing Buggy, and Buggy has a lot of treasure maps. Shanks must have taken the opportunity to find Buggy and secretly take the treasure from him. By the way, Carl, why did you come to the East Sea? You are short of money. If you hadn't stolen Bucky's treasure from me, I wouldn't have stolen his treasure again. It's nothing, I just came here to deliver something. Then Carl took out an orange fruit with flame stripes from the sack on his shoulder. My, natural fruit, how did you get this fruit? How much would it be worth if I sold it? Wait, you said you were giving this thing to someone else, it's not yours. Nothing is mine except this fruit. I just don't need it so I give it away. Hiss. Who on earth is so proud that you would give away a devil fruit? I already think you are crazy. Shanks covered his forehead with his hands and wailed. This brat. At this moment, Carl looked at Luffy who was pulling Shanks' sleeve. Looking up at Shanks, Shanks scratched his head a little embarrassed. Carl took off the straw hat on Shanks' head. With this action, the red hair pirates almost attacked Carl. Shanks waved his hand to stop them, but Carl ignored them. He took out the straw hat and put it on Luffy's head. You've made a good choice, but I won't interfere with your affairs, and you shouldn't interfere with mine either. Then he threw the straw hat to Shanks. Let's go Shanks. I hope we can still be the same next time we meet. Carl didn't know what Shanks' stance was. Was he on Roger's side or one of the higher-level celestial dragons? You have to know that celestial dragons are divided into different levels. The lowest level celestial dragons are those mentally handicapped idiots, while people like Shanks can be identified as celestial dragons with high-level combat power by looking at the domineering aura they exude. The Knights of God, commonly known as the Celestial Dragon's guards, are actually the high-level people who manage the Celestial Dragons. Carl left the bar without looking back. Only Shanks was stunned where he was. His originally playful expression froze instantly. After leaving the bar, Carl used his observation hockey to cover the entire island, and instantly knew where Lu Ju and her son were. You guys wait for me on the boat, or if you're bored, you can go down and walk around, but don't go too far. The guy in the bar just now is Garp's grandson. Be careful if Garp suddenly comes back, or I won't be able to save you in time. Yes, Captain. And Chloe, did you see the long-haired muscular man among them just now? He is your target from now on. He is the vice captain of the Red Hair Pirates. If you want to become my vice captain, you have to work hard. Well, that's all I have to say. I'll go deliver something first. After he finished speaking, Carl disappeared with a dozen consecutive shaves. He came to a place with a beautiful view. There was a small yard built with a wooden house on the open ground. The yard was fenced with wood, and there were several small fields in the yard where fruits and vegetables were planted. Carl walked into the yard. There was no one in the yard at this time, but there was smoke rising from the wooden house. Ace, help Mom serve the dishes, and go call Luffy back for dinner. I know, Mom. Carl followed the voice and walked into the inner room. A child of 6 or 7 years old came out of the kitchen with a dish. He was a little wary when he saw Carl. Who are you? You are Ace, right? Carl did not answer his question, but asked. Yes, I'm Ace. Who are you? Ace, who are you talking to? After hearing the noise from the inner room, the kitchen came out to check. You are, Carl. Aunt Lu Ju, long time no see. After hearing Carl's answer, Lu Ju hurriedly pulled Carl to sit at the dining table. It's been a long time since we last met. If Garp hadn't told me a few months ago that you came to the East China Sea, had a fight with him, and disappeared, I would have thought I would never see you again. I am so grateful to you back then, otherwise I would not have been able to give birth to Ace so safely. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand to grab Ace, who was at a loss, and held him in his arms, touching Ace's head with a doting look on his face. At that time, after Roger surrendered himself in exchange for the safety of mother and child, the couple thought that this would allow Lu Ju to give birth smoothly. Unexpectedly, Roger went to find Carl for the last time. Carl's guess made Roger feel very uncomfortable. If Carl hadn't arrived in time and given Lu Ju the ability of an animal-type fruit to strengthen her physique, Lu Ju might have died of exhaustion after giving birth to Ace after 20 months of pregnancy. Ace, this is your brother Carl. It was thanks to him that you were able to be born safely. If he hadn't come to protect your mother, you might not be able to see her now. Ace was obviously a little shy, especially Carl's appearance, which would have seemed very strange if he hadn't been on the Grand Line. Hey, kid, why are you like this? You were so wild when playing with Luffy, and now you meet your benefactor and don't even know how to say hello. Lu Ju looked at Ace and felt like he was going to be punished by the family rules because he didn't make any further moves. It's okay, Aunt Lu Ju. I actually came here to give Ace something. After thinking about it again and again, I still think it is better to give it to him. He took out the flame fruit in the sack. The fiery red fruit with the flame pattern lay quietly on the dining table. Carl, what are you doing? I'm very grateful to you for saving my mother and me. Why are you bringing this here now? Aunt Lu Ju, these are not important. This is a natural devil fruit called the flame fruit. After eating it, you can control the power of fire. I came here this time just to give this fruit to Ace. In fact, the main reason why I was able to find this fruit was because Uncle Roger gave me the clue to find the 7-star sword. So it wouldn't be a big deal if I gave this fruit to Ace. Besides, this is just a devil fruit. I think Ace, as a descendant of the Pirate King, must have some means to protect himself. Otherwise, if Ace's identity is exposed, it will be a disaster for him. It is not a choice for him whether he wants to live a stable life or not. Carl, Lujigarp and others know that Ace will not be safe even if he does not become a pirate. He can't even be a navy. He either hides for the rest of his life or goes out to sea to find the power he needs. Whether he goes out to sea or hides, he will be exposed sooner or later. It is just a matter of time. So I think for the safety of this kid's life, I should give him the flame fruit in advance. For this reason, Carl also specially imagined some fruit development functions based on his own use of the flame fruit. What flame wings, what 10,000-degree furnace, everything, no matter what is weird or not, as long as it works and can save lives and escape, it's fine. Oh, and this is my opinion on the development of the flame fruit, as well as my own practice of physical skills, swordsmanship, and domineering training. Ace, listen carefully now. I don't care whether you hate your father or not, but this training manual was written by me based on my own experience and the teachings of your father Roger. Even if you hate him, he is still your father, and you will never have peace in your life. Did you hear that? Carl looked at Ace, and Lu Ju beside him gently pushed Ace's shoulder. Reply quickly. I heard it. Carl had thought that after giving him the flame fruit, the matter would be over. After thinking about it, he decided to help the good guy to the end. After all, this kid is really pitiful. He is the son of the Pirate King, but why did his younger brother take away the protagonist's halo? Moreover, his strength is not bad, but why did he lose to his pride and complacency? Carl does not object to him letting anyone be his father in the future, but he is not interested in it. According to the original text, Garp has never taught Ace physical skills. He learned it completely by himself. Now Carl has given him his own training summary. I don't know if it will affect the subsequent plot. Carl doesn't know, and this is not something he can care about. After all, no matter who dominates the world, he can't stop the revenge of the innate dragon man. Since he met Roger on the uninhabited island at the age of 5, and because Shanks himself was inexplicably brought into a runaway state by the power in his body, Carl's body feels that it has begun to recover step by step. Especially after meeting Shanks again in the bar just now, Carl felt a desire to kill him. If it weren't for the fact that his mind was improved after getting the 7-star sword, the demon sword, Carl might really go crazy and kill Shanks again this time. In this case, the mess Roger left for Shanks might be difficult to clean up. The main reason why Carl taught Ace taijutsu and other training methods was because he knew that Garp would never teach Ace to practice. After all, even after Ace's mother died, Garp did not treat Ace equally. Even if he was not his own grandson, how could he watch someone being killed by someone else's hands? But when treating his own grandson, he didn't know how much he was letting go. Not only that, but he also let his subordinates do it together. Add to that the father of the Revolutionary Army. The Guide of the Four Emperors, the father of the Revolutionary Army, the former deputy-ship of the Pirate King is a teacher, the grandfather is a naval hero, the successor of the previous Pirate King. It's just a full stack of buffs. Especially the crew, it looks like a temporary patchwork, but it's actually a second-generation tour group. Others who beat up the celestial dragons are either hunted all over the world or hide to live out their days. He is good. After beating up the celestial dragons, he suddenly has a group of younger brothers who come here for his reputation, and he also has a wife of the 7 warlords of the sea. After recuperating for 2 years, he sets sail again and the world is shaken. Forced experience. It's just pathetic. Thank you, brother Carl. Only then did Ace come back to his senses. He knew his life experience when he was young, and he also vaguely realized that Garp didn't seem to like him very much, so the things that Carl gave him now would be the foundation for his rapid rise in the future and the protection of his mother's safety. Now suddenly someone appears and gives you what you want most at the most accurate time. Even if it is a stranger, you will be moved to tears. At this time, Ace is no longer the shy person he was before, and his snot mixed with tears flowed into his open mouth. Ace, remember, don't gamble on your luck before you confirm whether your ability is up to standard, because you have bad luck and are impulsive. If you get into trouble, it will be difficult to clean up the mess. Well, I won't say much. You should take a good look at these things. And it's best not to let Cap see them. Especially since you know that I gave you this cultivation manual that I summarized myself, you'd better remember it and burn it. Some of the insights and methods in it should not be easily passed on to others. Okay, after saying so much, I should go now. I hope I can see your name on the world headlines next time we meet, ha 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 ha. Aunt Lu Ju, I'm leaving first. Carl, don't you want to have a meal before leaving? No, I came here just to give you this fruit, and I just killed Garp's crew 2 months ago. If they knew I was here, they wouldn't be able to leave. Oh, Ace, eat this fruit right now. Oh, and I have something for you. Carl took out 4 shackles and handcuffs from the sack. These were specially made for Carl by Jin when Carl was in the kingdom of God. It was mainly just in case, or the side effects of the devil fruit were too deadly. He was afraid that he would be trapped by others after using some obscene moves. So this set of shackles and handcuffs made of sea stone is very useful. Carl almost forgot about it before, because Carl's main ability is not to develop devil fruits, so he didn't focus on training these. After leaving Wano country, Carl kept these things in the sack where the flame fruit was stored. I just remembered it when I took it out accidentally. Carl immediately thought that Enel should also try this training method. After all, this is the best training method for devil fruit users. Ace obediently ate the flame fruit, and his face turned purple after taking a bite. He looked choked, but Carl knew that this was the taste of the devil fruit, and most of it was still disgusting. Don't spit it out, eat it quickly, only after you finish eating it can you master all the abilities of this devil fruit. Carl naturally knew that the devil fruit's abilities could be mastered by just taking the first bite, and the reason he said that was just to tease this kid. Who made this kid treat Carl like a thief when they first met? Lu Ju smiled and said nothing. After Ace ate the whole devil fruit, his whole body began to burn. His originally fair skin began to turn red. Just like a red-hot iron. Seeing this, Carl arranged all the shackles and handcuffs for him. After putting them on, the previously red skin was like being poured with a basin of cold water, and it was extinguished instantly. Wear it for half an hour first, and remember to supervise his training every day. Don't feel bad. If you don't train him well now, you don't know how he will die in the future. I don't want to come to rescue you because of your arrogance. Oh, and there's this fruit. If Garp finds it, don't tell him I gave it to you. Tell him Ace found it in the woods and thought it looked pretty so he took a bite. Of course, you don't have to tell him if he doesn't ask. Especially the handcuffs and leg irons made of sea stone, which are most effective when practicing physical skills. Wearing them will also help the development of fruits. Well, I won't say too much. I'm leaving first. Before Lu Ju and her son said hello, Carl had disappeared. Mom, why does brother Carl help our family so much? I don't know either. Maybe he just wants to repay a favor. When he was young, it was your father who brought him on board and taught him how to practice, so he probably feels like he owes us something. In fact, he had already paid it back a few years ago when he tried his best to protect Mom and you in her belly, but he always felt that he owed us. Ace, from today on, you must practice well. Mom has figured it out. Just like what your brother Carl said, our family cannot escape the risk of being exposed no matter what. We might as well give it a try if we die in the hands of others. I understand, Mom. On the other side of the Windmill Village dock, Carl jumped onto the Black King. At this time, a group of people stood under the Black King, including the red hair pirates led by Shanks. What, Shanks, do you have something to tell me or do you want to fight me? Haha, you know me, Carl. It's been a long time since we last met. Last time, I saw in the newspaper that you fought with Mahawk and won against him. I've always wanted to know how strong you are now. Carl smiled. Okay, but this is not a good place to fight. If we fight here and the Navy comes, I won't be able to run away in time. After all, my crew is not as powerful as yours. I know there's a deserted island nearby, let's go there. Okay, lead the way. After saying that, Carl looked at the few people behind Shanks, headed by Beckman. These people are not simple. Now in the Crown Pirates, there are only 3 people besides Carl who can really hold up the team, Enil, Kawamatsu, and Klo. The others are all relatively young, so their combat power is negligible. Enil finally mastered the armament hockey a while ago, and was able to successfully wrap his entire arm. The observation hockey has also been further improved. If Carl does not use his full strength, his observation hockey can be on par with Carl, and he probably has the strength of an intermediate observation hockey. Kawamatsu can master the armament hockey himself, and the armament hockey is called Ryuo in Wano country. Ryuo is not the level of armament hockey, but another name for armament hockey, and the internal destruction of armament hockey can only be mastered by high-level armament hockey. But he has always been practicing based on swordsmanship, but his swordsmanship talent is not very strong, and his physical skills have improved slightly. In addition, he is of fish-man blood, so his basic strength is much stronger than ordinary people. He had been struggling with the progress of swordsmanship before, and then found that he could not improve, so he had to switch to physical skills and found that he had a slightly better talent. Then he devoted himself to practicing physical skills. Last month, after continuous practice of physical skills and swordsmanship, he unexpectedly improved, and advanced directly to the advanced level of swordsman. As for Chloe, because he started practicing relatively late, he can barely master the basic level of observation hockey, and can barely use other physical skills taught by Carl. Although his strength is not very strong, he is the fastest progressing among the three. Shanks's Red Force slowly led the way in front of the Black King, and the Black King followed closely behind. The Red Force looks very old, and some of the facilities on it are dilapidated. There are big holes in some places on the deck. Carl looked at him and shook his head. Carl didn't know what this guy's goal and position were. He just felt that this person was full of casualness. Everything seemed to have nothing to do with me. I can only say that this person is really magical. After secretly complaining in my heart, I soon arrived at an area far away from the windmill village. Looking back, I could no longer see the shadow of the windmill village. Carl jumped off the boat first, spread his black wings and floated in the air. This is a skill that Carl has mastered by himself. It can float without wind. It is not very useful, but very handsome. Although he is not very concerned about the development of his own fruit, he has never stopped developing his own body. Ever since the first time he met Shanks and stimulated the blood of King Lunalia, his body began to change. After that, physical strength became more and more important to Carl. Now for Carl, physical strength is equal to strength. As long as there is physical strength, there are endless possibilities. However, the changes in the body did not enhance the durability of physical strength, which is very troublesome. Originally, he felt that this devil fruit was a burden, but now he has become dependent on it, because as long as this devil fruit is used properly, it can train high durability physical strength. As long as the physical strength can keep up, Carl will be a pentagonal warrior. Carl wore a floral shirt and beach pants, and was suspended in the air in a pair of flip-flops, with sunglasses on his head. In the first second, he looked like a rich young man traveling, but the atmosphere in the air changed when the black wings spread out in the next second. Shanks originally wanted to tell a few jokes, but who knew that Carl would not give him a chance at all. He just got off the boat with full momentum. A group of people on the Red Force looked at the captain who was sloppy before and his expression became solemn in the next second. Shanks jumped off the deck and landed on the ground, looking at Carl from a distance. Anyway, single combat or joint combat. Carl is not afraid of them. As long as Carl does not burn the flame crown, then there is no need to be afraid. Even if the entire Red Hair Pirates come together, Carl will not be at a disadvantage. Carl only needs to burn the flames behind him, plus the dragon form, and these two combined can fight them at will. Although it cannot win in a short period of time, it can also exhaust their physical strength. Carl likes to fight a protracted battle with people of equal strength, because in this way, the final victory will always be Carl. Although it is despicable, he likes it very much. Whoever fights should be moral. Shanks looked back at the crew members on the ship behind him. Everyone on the ship was eager to move, and obviously wanted to have a competition. No, we haven't seen each other for a long time, so let's have a competition. It's worth being friends for so many years. Shanks replied, shaking his head. He knew that even if all the crew members of the Red Hair Pirates went together, they might not win against the Crown Pirates. He had been with Carl for several years and knew Carl's strength and methods very well. This man would not give anyone any face when he was pushed into a corner, and would kill everyone who was not one of his own. He was afraid that Carl would be so angry that the Red Hair Pirates that he had built with great difficulty would be destroyed. Killing Carl was even more of a joke. This man was a monster in himself, and with those incredible talents, he was simply not a human being. Shanks had only been able to break Carl's defense a few times so far. Okay, stop bragging. I know you love your crew. Come on, let me pick a venue for you. I'm very busy. I have a feeling that something big is going to happen recently. My road to rise starts here. I will make plans after the battle. Even if the crowned pirates fight in a group, they are not inferior to them. As long as Enelu defends those small fry, the big ones will be left to Carl. As he spoke, Shanks jumped a few times and walked to an open area on the deserted island. The terrain is flat and there are some weeds. There are several large mountains around, which is a bit like the basin of his hometown. Shanks stopped and turned back to face Carl, and Carl also stopped and stayed in midair. Shanks, who originally had a gentle look in his eyes, suddenly became like a hawk, and his left hand was placed on the straight sword griffin at his waist. The left hand on the hilt instantly exuded a strong sense of observation haki, and the observation haki bit towards Carl like a venomous snake. Carl was unwilling to show weakness and exuded his own observation haki, and the venomous snake that was originally galloping over slowed down as if it had encountered an enemy. Two observation haki fought in midair, with no winner. Shanks, who was originally very satisfied with his observation haki, could no longer laugh. Shanks' observation haki had always been his pride when he was on the ship. When on the ship, Carl had no way to defend against Shanks' observation haki. Although he did not break Carl's defense, it was very annoying that his observation haki was blocked. Carl began to develop his own observation haki after getting off the ship. Although it was not as domineering as Shanks' observation haki, he would never block his observation haki again because of observation haki after encountering it. Observation haki is a skill and a talent. Shanks tried hard to control his observation haki to face Carl's observation haki. From a distance, it seemed that the two people had been standing still since they landed on the island and did nothing. In fact, the observation haki of the two people had already fought to the death. On the ship of the Black King, Enelu tried hard to feel the battle between the two people's observation haki. Among these people, including the people of the Red Hair Pirates, except for the two captains, Enelu's observation haki was the strongest. It also has the widest coverage. Ever since he learned Carl's alternative observation haki technique, he has always wanted to learn it. Enel's observation haki covers everyone within a very large range, but that's all. He has been studying whether he can also develop the same observation haki as Carl to strangle or confuse, but he has not succeeded. Now, seeing two masters using observation haki competing, he suddenly felt yearning. He drove the power of the thunder fruit to fly to the air and watch from a place close to the two. On the other side, Carl was still in a stalemate with Shanks. Neither of them could do anything to the other. Shanks kept trying to get into a corner, but Carl didn't give him any face. Shanks saw that it didn't work and could only pull out the saber on his waist. Unlike other people's swords, Shanks's sword is very straight, unlike Roger's ace and Kazuki Oden's two double swords, which are both templates of katana. Shanks' sword is a bit like the one worn by those noble lords. Although the decoration is not as exquisite as Mihawk's black sword, Knight, it is definitely extraordinary just by looking at it. Even if it does not belong to the Supreme Great Sword 12 Works series, it will definitely not be bad. Seeing him draw his sword, Carl also drew out his 7-star sword to return the favor. As soon as the 7-star sword was drawn, Carl released his Conqueror haki and wrapped it around it. The aura spread over hundreds of miles at a time. Carl hadn't released Conqueror haki so freely for a long time. He was always cautious before, and even if he used all of it, he didn't dare to release it so blatantly over such a large area. Now that there was a son of a noble lord here, Carl naturally had to vent his pent-up emotions. A red and green aura spread out from Carl's body, and time seemed to have stopped. Shanks released his Conqueror haki to resist, and several of the weaker crew members on the ship around the island were shocked to foam at the mouth. Carl didn't care so much. Waves of Conqueror haki-like waves emanated from Carl's body, and the nearby grass and trees were blown away by Carl's Conqueror haki air waves, and scratches appeared on the originally open and flat ground. Shanks found that Carl's indiscriminate attack with his Conqueror haki had already brought him a great sense of oppression, and he felt embarrassed. He did not hold back and rushed towards Carl with domineering haki. Carl immediately noticed it with his observation haki and chopped off the domineering haki with a sword. Shanks, you didn't expect that not only am I not behind you in observation haki, but I am even with you. Now I am even better than you in Conqueror haki. If you have any tricks, use them now. I don't have time to play with you. Shanks did not answer, but silently mobilized his strength. He put the griffin in his left hand back, and in less than a second, Shanks pulled out the griffin again and rushed to Carl's place. With a kick of his feet, he slid to Carl's side at low altitude and swung a knife down. Carl blocked it with his sword and bounced it off. The two separated, and Shanks was repelled by the rebound force and Carl's sword. Carl would not miss this good opportunity, and a fire ignited behind him. Shave used physical skills to quickly come to Shanks's foothold and swung a sword. Shanks felt his hair stand on end before the smoke and dust had dispersed. He dodged and jumped out of the thick smoke caused by the pushback. Seeing that his attack was dodged, Carl used Shave again and came in front of Shanks and slashed down with his sword again. Ding! The swords crossed, and the two men were deadlocked in place, secretly competing in strength. Carl felt it was meaningless and drew his sword and retreated. He sheathed the sword. Shanks did the same. What's going on? Captain, aren't they going to fight anymore? The fat chef of the Red Hair Pirates asked the question in his mind. Stupid, the captain and his men were just competing in swordsmanship just now. I think the other party thought it was boring, so they drew their swords and retreated. Watch carefully, the next thing is the most exciting. Sure enough, after Carl sheathed his sword, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He put his hand on the hilt, and the whole person seemed to be still. The sound of swords being drawn rang out on the two people's stage, but only the sound was heard but the person was not seen. Shanks on the side had his pupils shrank sharply, and Carl's figure quickly enlarged in Shanks' pupils, and bright red eyes like lampshades appeared in front of Shanks. Great thousand worlds. Before Shanks could react, countless sword energies filled his face. He clenched the griffin tightly in his left hand and quickly cut off one attack after another, but some of them missed and left several cuts on Shanks' body. Carl would never let him get away so easily, and he sent out Great Thousand Worlds again. Shanks realized that he couldn't dodge and stopped suppressing himself, and released his strength with all his strength. The soaring momentum and the swing of the sword blocked all the Great Thousand Worlds released by Carl just now, and then the energy was exhausted and dissipated in the air. Seeing that he was serious, Carl was no longer polite, and flashed to his side again. Carl's eyes flashed red and he swung a sword, and Shanks also swung a sword with red eyes. The attacks of the two blew away the surrounding grass and trees, and the dark clouds that had originally dyed the surrounding sky black due to the release of the Conqueror's Haki were blown open by the momentum of the two. It was like the sky was splitting apart, but they were not done yet. Before the two swords collided, a white sphere with red rim formed. The circumference was like a hairdryer blowing out strong winds, making the people watching the fight at close range squint their eyes. After an hour of stalemate, the two men put away their weapons and retreated together as if they had telepathy. Carl held the seven-star sword high above his head, while Shanks held the griffin and pointed it to the side. Carl, Royal Extreme. Shanks, God Avoidance. Carl's red and green light flew towards Shanks. On the other side, Shanks' red light flew horizontally towards Carl. The two attacks collided with each other and made a huge tearing sound. Thanks for watching.